The historic city of Graz, Austria. Notable former residents include famous inventor and engineer Nikola Tesla, successful bodybuilder and Hollywood star Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Jochen Rindt, the only driver in history to be awarded the Formula One World Drivers' Championship posthumously. The Austrian city is also known as the birthhome of the Mercedes-Benz G-Class, probably the most complete civilian off-roader in the world and one of the coolest cars ever made. This is the Geländewagen, which literally means terrain vehicle in German, but most of us seem to have given up on pronouncing this name properly, so we've come to call it the G-Wagen. Now, the G-Class project started as a suggestion from the last Shah of Iran during the 70s, as he was a major shareholder in the parent company of Mercedes-Benz. Like other legendary SUVs, the G-Class initially spawned as a military vehicle, but it soon evolved into an off-road civilian vehicle which could handle the roughest terrains or be taken to the opera on Friday evening. These days, G-Wagen owners spend most of their time cruising in traffic instead of putting this beast to work or figuring out the proper order of locking those three differentials. Speaking of which, if you're ever at the wheel of a G-Class and need to cross some mud field, the only safe order to lock those differentials is center, rear, and then front. Oh, and never try driving at speed with your differentials locked. You might damage your drivetrain and even your safety. The story of how the G-Wagen evolved from an idea into an automotive icon is a rather twisted one. But over 4 decades later, the things that make this vehicle tick are still part of its lineage. After the Shah's suggestion and a 7-year gestation period, we finally saw the launch of the G at the end of the disco era. Since then, the Mercedes-Benz G-Class has been assembled almost entirely by hand in Graz, only adding to its allure and exclusivity. Simply put, the original model came at a time when Mercedes-Benz lacked the capacities to produce an all-new vehicle. To get the ball rolling, the Germans joined hands with the Austrians from Steyr Daimler Puch, as they were known to be at the top of the all-terrain vehicle game, responsible for legends like the Haflinger and the Pinzgauer. Mercedes engineers then focused on design and testing over the course of 7 years, with various G-model prototypes seen conquering everything from German coalfields to the Saharan desert and even the Arctic. The cubic body sat on top of leather chassis, like real trucks, under which SDP figured it would be an excellent idea to add not 1, not 2, but 3 fully locking differentials. The engine and transmission was old Benz, baby. When the G was launched, you could choose either a short one or a long one, with the former available as a 3-door ragtop or a hardtop. Yes, convertible off-roaders used to be a thing back in the day. The longer 5-door version is the only one that continues to exist in the modern lineup, and yes, we are talking about real doors, as the G-Class has never had a hatch in the back like regular SUVs. The mixture of military credentials and German oily bits was not by chance either. The G-Wagen has seen service with over 63 armies over the years, and Mercedes-Benz is still building all military versions of the G even today. Not long after the civilian version was introduced to the world, the German car maker encountered a major problem, indirectly caused by the vehicle itself. The original plan was to only deliver the G model to interested armies or farmers and off-road aficionados, but the market had abruptly changed. When Mercedes started developing the G-Wagen, the people they thought would buy it had holes in their clothes because of their work, not because of a fashion statement. To tighten the noose even more, Land Rover had started to meet new market needs with the Range Rover, the world's first luxury SUV, and Mercedes wanted a piece of the action. Instead of developing an all-new model to take on the Range Rover, the Germans slowly introduced some comfort features from the sedan lineup into the G-Wagen. This way, they could make it more luxurious without messing with its off-road capabilities. The first major changes arrived in 1981 and included an automatic gearbox and, wait for it, air conditioning. A year later, comfier seats lifted from the sedan lineup, auxiliary heating, and wider tires. After an impressive Paris-Dakar win in '83, Mercedes kept adding kits to its blocky off-roader. By 1987, the G had power windows, a retractable radio antenna, and friggin' luggage covers. Why? Because luggage gets cold, apparently. In 1989, the first factory pimped-out G-Wagen arrived just in time for the vehicle's 10-year anniversary. By then, specs included things like electronically locking differentials, ABS, and wood and leather trimmings for the interior. And things kinda stayed that way for around a decade. It wasn't until 2001 that everything changed. Following the integration of AMG as an official in-house tuner of Mercedes, the G-Class finally became the favorite of celebrities and the wealthy with the introduction of the G55 AMG, the most powerful and the most expensive G-Class up to that point. 3 years later, the G55 got a compressor badge thanks to an added supercharger, but sales still weren't in line with the vehicle's fame. Because of this, Mercedes-Benz was preparing to pull the plug on the G-Class as early as 2005, announcing that the boxy off-roader will be replaced by the GL-Class, a modern full-size luxury SUV that is now called the GLS. And that's really when things started to take a turn for the better. After that announcement, fans of the G from all over the world begged Mercedes to revert his decision. There was even some light mutiny at the grass factory, with the only thing missing being some tar and feathers.
They took our jib!
Obviously, they succeeded because the mighty G-Wagen is still part of today's lineup and has since become a cultural icon, not just an automotive one. With a rectangular style language that is arguably the last remaining example of Bauhaus design in the modern automotive world, the G-Wagen was developed from start to finish so that form follows function. One of which seems to be insect extermination. Apart from offering great forward visibility, the almost vertical windshield of a G-Class is known as the magnum opus of vehicular bug killers. If you've ever taken a road trip during summer with the G-Class, you know what we're talking about here. Its practical design isn't just a death sentence for anything flying at windshield level, but can also be annoying for passengers. For example, the side windows are completely parallel. You can see a reflection in them while you're driving, which can be a bit spooky for some. At least you never feel alone in a G. Another important feature shared by every G-Class from 1979 until now is the way its doors need to be shut. You really need to slam them, and I mean slam, like you're breaking up with your girlfriend every time you get out of the car. The only G-Wagen that we know of with soft closed doors is a modified version from a German tuning company called Schaver. The rest needs slamming. As yet another nod to its military roots, when you lock a G-Wagen, it literally sounds like you're cocking a shotgun. Cocking. The production facility in Graz was developed specifically for the G-Wagen, where about 10,000 units have been built every year since 1979. Did we say 10K? Make that a solid 20,000 units per year, as demand has skyrocketed since a few years ago. Oh, and when we say skyrocket, we really mean it. At the beginning of 2022, German dealers stopped accepting new G-Class orders as delivery waiting times increased to over 2 years. That's like buying a limited edition supercar. Some say that the popularity of the G-Wagen was increased by rappers and music videos. Others say it's the Kardashians, but those who know, well, know. It's a military vehicle that somehow found its way into civilian territory and adapted to our way of life without losing its army roots. It's like a combat-ready Navy SEAL who's wearing a tailored suit and drinking tea with a raised pinky, still clinging on to its rugged Bauhaus styling and refusing to compromise on off-road ability stuffed with the finest in creature comforts and AMG power, has somehow kept the G alive largely unchanged for over 4 decades. And it will continue to stay alive even during the electric age thanks to the EQG, an all-electric G-Class with 4 motors that should redefine its segment yet again. There isn't a better example of a love it or hate it vehicle in the Mercedes-Benz lineup, and it's been like this for over 40 years, with every new G-Class showing minimal design differences comparing to the original G of 1979.